we'll spend the next 20 minutes talking about another important topic, which is having open models here in the US. And for this topic, I couldn't find a better person than Ioannis to join us. Ioannis was at DeepMind for many years before co-founding a very exciting new company called the Reflection AI. And maybe Ioannis, let's start with you maybe talking a little bit about the big idea that got the company started.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the invitation, and it's great to be here. So I'm Ioannis. I'm the co-founder of Reflection AI, and as correctly you pointed out, I was at DeepMind. I was actually one of the founding engineers at DeepMind. I joined really early, and I spent all of my time there really studying reinforcement learning. So I worked on AlphaGo, AlphaZero, which were like one of the big examples of reinforcement learning and superintelligence working in practice. And in 2024, when I left with Misha to start Reflection, it was a different time. I guess like maybe it was the winter of reinforcement learning. Everyone felt that pre-training, more data, more compute is like the only thing that you needed to actually get to superintelligence. And Misha and I, having spent so much time studying reinforcement learning and understanding those systems, we felt that that's not the full story. And the next frontier of capabilities will be shaped by advances in reinforcement learning and by combining reinforcement learning with LLMs. So when we first left, we kind of like wanted to show that RL and LLM is the next frontier, is like the way that we can improve further the capabilities of these models. And initially, we focused on doing post-training on top of open weight models, and we realized that most of the most powerful open weight models were actually coming from the Chinese labs. And I mean, that's really good for the ecosystem, but also showed that there is a lack of really powerful models coming from the US. And open models are the bedrock for building the kind of like building the stack of the future. Like open software is actually the bedrock that enabled the internet to be built on top of, and like so many products, right? Like, so now in this new age of AI, we believe that like open models will just be will just like play a similar role, and it is important that we have models here in the US. So this is how we decided that we should just double down on that and ensure that we do both pre-training and post-training within Reflection to build the most powerful open agentic models here.
Yeah. Hey, so maybe we talk about the whole landscape of foundation models. So there are a lot of models out there. And when we talk about foundation models, everybody think about ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok for the closed models. And then, when it comes to open models, it'd be the Llama, Gemma, and can you hear me? Oh, yeah. Okay. So how do you see this model landscape evolve in the next 2 years, and especially as a new upcomer? How do you see the deficiencies and the opportunities for Reflection?
Yeah. So actually, like if you think of the existing models, you have, as you correctly pointed out, there are like two families. Like on one hand, you have the closed frontier models. That's Gemini, Grok, Claude, and ChatGPT, like GPT-5. And then you have a family of kind of like smaller models, which are in the open weight frontier here in the West. And you have Gemma, which is like really powerful model, Llama, which was Llama 1, Llama 2, and Llama 3. Especially Llama 3 was like a really good model, but like not so much Llama 4. And what you see is that and this is actually what we saw before starting Reflection, is that it almost felt that the closed frontier and the open frontier would converge. With Llama 3, you could just like see that you could envision a world where Llama 4 closed the gap between the open and the closed frontier, and that's not the case anymore. Like if not for companies like Reflection just step in and fill this gap, then we just like continue to see the divergence between closed models and open models, and the closed models just kind of like really increasing the gap to the open models. I guess like the picture is completely different if we see of the whole world. There's like there are many great models like DeepSeek and Quen and Kimi, which are actually like really close to the frontier, not quite there, but like really close to the frontier. And I think like if this movement continues, eventually we will get in a world in the next few years where the open and the closed frontier, the gap between the open and the closed frontier just like really closes.
Hey, why are the Chinese decide to open source their models, and why are the best open source models coming from China versus US or elsewhere?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. I think that they're thinking of the approach in a different way. I think that they understand the importance of building the ecosystem around their models. They understand that, like what I said, right, that the new world will be built on top of open models. And if you are the leader in this new world, then you just like capture all the benefits in the near and in the near term, right? So I think that they understand that, they see that. It's actually really good for the research community that there are like so powerful open weight models out there, and you see a lot of the research also coming out of universities in the US or the UK to also build on top of Chinese models. So clearly, they want to just be the main the main platform upon which intelligence is being built. Yeah.
It seems that one of the big advantage between model providers is the access to GPU, and it's widely known that the Chinese companies don't have the same level of access. I'm curious, do you see, maybe the GPU not being the biggest barrier, or do they have a different way to manage without having the latest GPUs?
So, I mean, they actually have their own GPUs. They don't have access to the latest GPUs coming out of NVIDIA and Western companies. And this is also like them trying to further invest in their own internal market and homegrown companies to just like build powerful GPUs themselves. So I think that there's like a switch to kind of moving all the training, the training workflows and inference to GPUs produced within China, and even though this might actually slow them down in the near term, I think it will be like a good strategy for their own industry going forward, because it is really important that you go design the intelligence and the hardware to ensure that the intelligence makes best use of the hardware available, and also to inform the next generation of hardware. So by just like coupling the two, I think that in the next few years they will just like also have really powerful accelerators that they're producing themselves.
And maybe talk a little bit more on specifically how Reflection is looking at the next couple of years. There's obviously closed model to compete with, and the Chinese models won't stop innovating as well. And how do we as U.S. companies to regain the edge on open source models again?
Absolutely. So, like the way we think about it is that we first want to build really powerful models in the US, which are actually open weight, open source, which allows like for an ecosystem to thrive and build upon. We want to ensure that the technology and the research that's coming out of universities, Stanford University or like UCL in London, they build on top of Reflection. They don't build on top of the Quen models, for example. And for us, like the most important thing at first is to reach parity with the open weight frontier as it's currently been shaped by the Chinese labs. After that, we really think that there shouldn't be a gap between open and closed intelligence. Personally, I think that like intelligence shouldn't be controlled by a few people. I think that like everyone should be able to gain access to it. Of course, like we need to be really careful with security and safety, that like it doesn't fall in wrong hands. But like people who like people with like good intentions, let's say, should have access to frontier intelligence, and this will just be a benefit to our economy, our society, to everyone. So the step after reaching parity with the open weight frontier is to actually close the gap between open weight and closed. This is what we're aiming to do in the next 2 years.
Ioannis, when we talk about models, there are actually many different types of models now. Not just language models, but there's the image generation, video, and it seems that the latest momentum is on physical models as well. Companies such as Periodic, etc. And what's your view on the different variety of models and when we talk about the open models to be filling that void? Is it important to focus more on the language models, or is it as important to look at the physical models and other things as well in your mind?
I think that currently the most important models are the text-based models, let's say, the ones that, though like the next instantiation of those, which is what we call agentic models. And agentic models are models that can automate workflows using code, using text. This is similar to what you see with like Cloud Code or like the cursor agents or agents that use MCP to automate whole workflows. So I think that like currently this is maybe the main thing that we're missing as an ecosystem in the open weight frontier. And of course, like the one that will become the main focus after that is to add multimodality. So many things are actually expressed in video or like in images or audio. So it's important that like at least the model can understand and consume the other modalities, and it can actually reason over them. And I think like this is gonna be the next frontier that like everyone will be focusing on like in a year from now or like in the next generations of systems. So in terms of priorities for us, we first want to ensure that you have like really powerful agentic models, and then also start thinking about multimodality and how this can be used to really power powerful agents.
My last question, since we have a room full of CIOs here, maybe a chance for you to pitch to why CIOs should take open models more seriously versus just use one of the closed models.
Yeah, so I think that like open models, they come with a host of different advantages. Like one thing is that you fully control them. You control the data that like go into the models. You control where they're hosted, how much of them you use. You have like absolute full governance of your data and your usage. Also, you can really customize it. I know that like many enterprises might have like data that they want to kind of like post-train the models on, or they might want to kind of change them with reinforcement learning to just be much better at particular use cases that they really care about. And you cannot really do that with as easily and to the extent that you can do it with open models. And of course, cost is also like a really important consideration because as agents become like more of a reality, you have an increased consumption of tokens because like these agents might run for like hours or like in the future days, right? And it's not clear how much time it will take for an agent to complete a task. So it's like really hard to even predict what the cost will be. But like if you actually own the model, then you can have like better governance of that. You're hosting it, you know how many GPUs you're using to actually run the model. So even in terms of like managing predicting the usage of the agent, predicting the costs associated to that with running the agent, like having ownership of that is becoming more important.
We certainly see that among our portfolio companies as well. As they build the initial product, they typically use OpenAI or Gemini APIs. And then lately, as they really ramp, they all end up self-hosting open source models for cost reasons and ability to develop on top of that. I think with that, we'll open up the floor. If there's any questions.
You talked a bunch about how open models are different, and there are things that are beneficial for open models. Where are the primary gaps? And you talked about the gaps too, but what are the primary gaps we should look out for? Meaning, is it accuracy, latency between the open and the closed models?
Hey, Ioannis, could you just repeat the question a little bit? And that was KK from Delta. So, Delta CTO.
So I guess like the question was, what are the gaps between open and closed weight models, right? So the main gaps are in terms of capabilities currently. So all the open models that you can use, they're not strong reasoners. It means that like they cannot really tackle hard tasks. They're not good agents, which means that they're not reliable to automate workflows, and they don't follow instructions as well. Like even things like following instructions is weaker in the existing open models in comparison to closed models.
Any other questions?
What's the time frame by which your model will be available to enterprise customers? Because we know in polling our customers, a lot of them have had deployed Llama, and obviously Llama has kind of gone in a different direction or is not innovating as fast. So can you give some timeline and when can people start taking the tires before?
Yes, so our timelines are 10 to 12 months from now for releasing the flagship model.
Ioannis, this is Sean from Live Nation CTO. So what comes with that? Like what is the plumbing and infrastructure and enablement that sort of comes with it?
So at that point, we want to first, of course, like release the model, the weights, and people will just be able to have access to it. We also want to release some tools that like come with it, so that people can customize the model and also like ensure that there are solutions for inference.
Hey, Ioannis, maybe talk a little bit about NVIDIA, kind of what they're doing with that, and whatever you think about that.
I mean, I guess like still things are, So we've actually like formed a partnership with NVIDIA to ensure that we kind of like work strategically together, both in terms of developing the technology for these models and also for on the engineering side, and also to ensure that these models can be deployed in an easier way. But there's like more information on like what this partnership will look like, and that will become available in the future as like we publicize more this relationship.
Yeah.
So would you then look at Anthropic as your long-term competitor? Because obviously if you look at the largest labs, they're the ones that have taken a clear direction toward the enterprise, including the announcement yesterday with IBM. So they have, focus on that and all the concerns that, that big CIOs have. Plus now it sounds like you're getting into distribution deals with IBM, et cetera. So I'm kind of curious, do you see them as the other obvious choice that CIOs might have? And with that would be sort of continuing to go to market for their market share?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, actually, the way I see it is that Anthropic also goes after the enterprise market, but they're like more focusing on the startups and scale-ups, and not so much like bigger enterprises where owning the intelligence layer, like having the open models, it's like beneficial. So I do see like that there's going to be competition, I guess, like of some sort between Reflection and Anthropic going forward. I also like think that we are differentiated. We are like really committed to the open strategy. They're like really committed to a closed strategy, and like in the long term, I believe that open wins.
I'm curious, like DeepSeek was able to do a lot of work through reinforcement learning aspects of it. You guys started with that and for an open source model. How much of reinforcement learning are you guys using, and what's the future of it in like enterprise world going forward?
Yeah, so reinforcement learning is like a really important part like of the next generation of capabilities. And personally, I'm an expert. This is my expertise. This is what I've spent all of my life like studying. So we just like, of course, we use a lot of it, and we do a lot of reinforcement learning on top of the model. When we started, it wasn't clear. Like now, I think that we both agree that reinforcement learning, it's obvious that reinforcement learning is part of the solution. When we started, that wasn't the case. So we kind of like wanted to also like show like that RL and LLMs kind of like work really well together, which is why we kind of focused on post-training. And then now that this is both we de-risked it internally and also externally, we're kind of like focusing on just building it from the ground up. So it's kind of like expanding our scope to include both pre-training and doing heavily RL, which is something that like we've been doing for the past for the past year.
Good. I think next heading into a break, right? Yeah, awesome. Great.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.